And we are live. So, Aaron, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. So this is our first, I guess, official week one podcast of five-star dispatch, and I'm excited. I'm Fight On 2016 or Ryan Besh here with Aaron Friedman, A Friedman 15 in Slack, and we're excited to kind of break down the Thursday and Friday night DFS slates for you. Uh, just to kind of start us off, kind of like we always want to recap kind of last week. Aaron, on the pod last week, you called out Cedric Burrs, the top wide receiver. He comes out 64 DraftKings points. Great call. What stood out to you last week?
Well, the slot guys at Hawaii have always been pretty. They've been like amazing producers over the years. So knowing he was gonna take Ursua's role from last year, that really caught my eye.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good game all around. I mean, Khalil Tate taking it down. I didn't even stay up. I couldn't stay up for the end of that one, but Khalil Tate taking it down to the 1 yard line and getting stopped there to take the game into overtime and just falling short. It was a fun week. I know the Miami game was sloppy, but
We expected it.
yeah.
Yeah. I saw that Florida had 10 sacks in that game. I think we learned that both of those defenses were as legit as we kind of expected they were, and both of those offenses are a little shaky.
Yeah, Williams is I was impressed with him. He
Mm-hmm.
showed up well. I mean, they had every chance to win, and that was a good performance for his
Mm-hmm.
first game.
Yeah, and DJ in the Wildcat, it seemed like they were finding success with that. So I'm sure we'll see that in future weeks to come.
Yeah.
Awesome. So enough about the past. Let's get to the present and the future. So we're going to start out with UCLA against Cincinnati. The betting line opened at Cincinnati minus 3.5 with a total of 65. It currently sits Cincinnati minus 2.5 and a total of 59. And I just want to kind of shameless plug here. If you were with us about 4 weeks ago, I told our Beat the Bookie members in our Beat the Bookie Slack, which is the add-on product for betting, to bet the under at 67.5 as a max bet. Because our model gives this game around a total of 54 and had amazing value at that time. About a month ago, pretty much put a ton of money on that game. If you're interested in signing up for Beat the Bookie, DM me, let me know. Anyway, so let's kind of jump into the game. So what do you think about UCLA's offense?
I think it will take a big step forward in year two. My only interest is with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the quarterback on Fanduel. He's very reasonable at 7,300, which is pretty cheap for a quarterback. I think he has, throughout the season, he has 3,000-yard potential, just being his second year in the Chip Kelly offense. He's definitely my favorite play. I think about running him naked, but I don't know. I feel like I need to see more out of the receiver crew. Kelly's a good running back, but he's not. I'm not running to roster him either.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel?
Yeah, so I guess when I look at offense, I like to look at kind of who they're going against, what defense. And Cincinnati's defense last year was amazing. They were first in completion rate allowed. Quarterbacks threw 49% against them. They were sixth in marginal rushing efficiency. Their secondary is all back, and what they did last year was they played on islands. Between the two top cornerbacks, they had 54 solo tackles. So you can tell that they're just going to load the box to stop Kelly and put their receivers and really hope that they can repeat last year's performance. And so when I kind of look at UCLA's offense from that, I also am not going to chase Kelly. I think he in a normal sense, he is a 20 carry a game guy, but in this game, it gets really tough. Run D, I don't want to touch it. DTR and FanDuel, I think that's a great call. In terms of the receivers, I think there are two plays you can possibly go. Last year, Caleb Wilson, who is the tight end for UCLA, had 97 targets. In Chip Kelly's systems, they like to target the tight end. Jordan Wilson draws the start at tight end, who is 3,200 on DK and 4,600 on FanDuel. So he's really cheap on both sites. Definitely going to see a lot of targets there. And then the second player to possibly look at is Jalen Irwin. So Theo Howard made actually big news in that he's not the starter. He's super priced up. Jalen Irwin draws a start, and he's min-price on both sites.
Yeah, awesome. I always like a good 4K receiver on FanDuel. It seems like one of the three receivers you can punt in with, so that's a good call.
Yeah, and on FanDuel's pricing is just strict in general.
Yeah.
As we'll get into later, there are some DK studs that are priced cheap, but FanDuel has done really good with pricing.
Yeah, they have.
So moving to the other side of the ball, what do you like on Cincinnati?
So Cincinnati has a really talented dual threat quarterback, Desmond Ridder, 2,400 passing yards, almost 600 rushing yards, 25 total touchdowns. He's really talented. I don't know if feel like I'd want a higher implied team total here to want him in a ton of rosters. Michael Warren's really talented too. I like him. He's not my favorite of the high-end running backs, but he's good. I think Alec Pierce is probably my favorite target. He's an outside receiver, very cheap, like 3,500 on DraftKings. He was the spring ball MVP for Cincinnati. So he didn't really play last year, so he's kind of an unknown and priced down. So you have to take advantage, especially the first few weeks, you have to take advantage of the cheap pricing because it catches up throughout the season.
Yeah, that's why we do this podcast, because I didn't have Pierce listed. That's why we do this. So kind of going to UCLA's defense. Their style is to bend but not break. Last year, they ranked 101st in marginal efficiency and 118th in success rate. Their secondary was the best unit last year, and the D-line is horrendous. They ranked 122nd last year in stuff rate and 126th in sack rate. So just looking at Cincinnati, I think this is a perfect fit for the offense to really do well. Luke Fickell, the head coach, said that he wants to run the hell out of the ball this year. And I think sadly, McClellan tearing his ACL, it kind of leaves two kind of star running backs to kind of share the load. I think Michael Warren and Garrett Dokes, who also was injured in 2018, share the ball. And so my favorite play out of Cincinnati is Dokes, who is 4,500 on DK, whereas Warren is 7,800. Both around six yards a carry. Players both should get plenty of opportunity. I'll definitely have my share of Warren as well, because I do think that they run the ball a heck of a lot in this game. In terms of Ridder, he's priced up on DraftKings, and I don't really want to play any of the priced up guys when we have guys that are in the 6K, 5K range that we'll talk about later, who are going to put up the same ceiling. So I'd rather just kind of go there.
Yeah, I agree. I think we'll talk about the moderately priced QBs in the next game, and then we'll talk about Trevor Lawrence, of course. I like Trevor Lawrence, not to jump ahead too far, but I like him on FanDuel,
Hmm.
where he's not priced up too much higher than the top tier of quarterbacks. Like, get your exposure to Trevor Lawrence on FanDuel and go a different direction on DraftKings.
Yeah, for sure. That makes total sense, and I completely agree. So yeah, moving on to the game that we're all kind of talking about here, Tulane versus FIU. Tulane opened as a 3-point favorite, and the total was 57.5. The line has moved to Tulane -2, so it's moved to FIU a little bit, and the total has stayed at 57.5. But there's a little sharp money on the under, although I do know some big bettors who are putting it on the over. My model has Tulane scoring 29 points and FIU scoring 28 points. So close game, should see some solid point production. In terms of Tulane, who do you like, Aaron?
I like it starts with the running backs for me. Darius Bradwell, he had 201 carries last year. He wants to have that same heavy role. They also have a new offensive coordinator, Will Hall, who was
Mm-hmm.
previously at Memphis. And the bubble screens and quick passes that Memphis used a lot last year with Tony Pollard, Henderson, and Patrick Taylor, those are coming to Tulane now.
Mm-hmm.
So I like Bradwell a lot. And also I like Amari Jones. He's a 5'11 guy, kind of smaller like Pollard. He was a kick returner last year. He also had like 41 rushes for 216 yards, 4 touchdowns. So I think they'll use him a lot as a. He's the starting slot back, and I think they'll use him a lot as like a gadget player like Pollard last year. Pollard's now on the Cowboys, and so I'm interested in him. He's in the low threes on DraftKings. I don't know exactly what the price is there. Let me see what he's on FanDuel. Um, oh my gosh, he's 8,100 on FanDuel, but or wait, sorry. Oh, I picked the wrong. He's 4,600 on. So he's cheap on FanDuel too. There's A
Mm-hmm.
Jones on FIU, but there's also an A Jones on Tulane.
You hate it when
So
that happens.
yeah, I think on both sites he's an interesting play. I like him better on DraftKings where you can slide him into flex and not necessarily give up one of your two running back spots. Um, and then for Florida International, I really like the quarterback.
You're not touching McMillan.
Oh yeah. I like McMillan a lot too. He's a dual threat guy. He took over the starting job last year, and this is his first full year as a starter. He was previously an LSU transfer. So yeah, I'm interested in him given the close nature of this game. I mean, even Cincinnati, I don't know. I don't see that game as that close. I mean, I see Cincinnati as the best non-power five team in the country, whereas this
Mm-hmm.
game I think will be as competitive as any on the slate. So I like the quarterbacks on both sides a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. Kind of just looking over out to the other side of the ball for FIU, the secondary was by far better than the line. The run defense was 95th in efficiency, 116th in stuff rate, and 114th in opportunity rate. And so when I kind of look at Tulane, I agree. I think with the new OC coming from Memphis, you're going to see a lot of running backs, and you're going to see two running back sets, possibly even three running back sets. And they're all going to see the field, and they're all going to see touches. So I like all of them. Dauphine is priced a little cheaper on DraftKings at 4,700. Last year, he had 6.3 yards per carry and 7 touchdowns. In terms of, and then, yeah, I mean, I pretty much like this entire game. Like you said, I think McMillan is a beast. 4 of his last 6 games were over 20 DraftKings points. And then his receivers, you have Darnell Mooney, who is kind of the big, deep threat. He had over 20 yards per catch last year. And then they just brought in Jalen McCluskey from Oklahoma State, who had a 76% catch rate. So you kind of have your PPR guy there that's going to be the security blanket, but then you have someone that's kind of can stretch the field over the top. So I think this offense is actually going to be extremely good, and I'm excited to kind of watch this game.
Yes, same.
So moving on to the other side of the ball, what do you think about FIU?
I like James Morgan a lot. I don't know who exactly is going to get the ball to, but Morgan was he spent 2 years at Bowling Green. He was the Conference USA Newcomer of the Year last year. He was a good fantasy player, 26 touchdowns last year. Yeah, I really like him in the fantasy element. He's a great producer, and he has an amazing price on DraftKings, so he'll probably be my highest owned quarterback.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think that this game is fun for me in that FIU's defense struggles against the run, and Tulane's defense struggles against the pass. Both what the offenses want to do, and so I agree. I think whoever priced James Morgan at 5,400 on DraftKings, where's that job opening, and how do I apply for it? Because that's just stupid. Like, he'll probably be my highest owned quarterback, I think, in a game where they don't run the ball very much. Last year, they had a 65%. Morgan had 65% completion rate, and they were fairly explosive in the passing game. I see them being able to kind of use that and throw the ball downfield and score a lot of points. In terms of his wide receivers, he's got 3. So Maurice Alexander, who's priced 6,000, Maloney at 4,800, and then Gator at 3,800. Alexander and Maloney kind of were around the same in targets last year, and so those would be my top 2 guys. But I'm fine just running him naked, honestly.
Yeah.
At 5,400, you can open up to kind of get the studs on the slate.
Yeah, really for both quarterbacks in this game, they're pretty deep teams offensively, so I could go both quarterbacks naked, and I wouldn't have a problem.
So I guess we're going to move on to my favorite game. Not really at all. So we had Georgia Tech versus Clemson. And so first off, before we begin, let's just have a moment of silence for the triple option, which is now dead in Power 5 conferences.
Yeah.
Okay, that was enough. So this line opened Clemson minus 33.5 with a total of 60. The line is now Clemson minus 36 and it's pushing minus 37 and a total of 59.5. My model has Clemson at 47 points and Georgia Tech at 13. And just this is kind of for all you listeners out there. My free bet of the pod is Clemson first half minus 21.5. I will get into this more later, I assume. But yeah, this is a fantastic bet, and I love every minute of it. So I guess we'll kind of jump into what do you like on Georgia Tech's fun depth chart?
Who
do you think is going to be starting?
The only player I have quasi interest is Amarian Brown. He was a 10-4 track guy in high school, and I don't know how much I'll use him. I mean, 12 points is just such a jarringly low point total, but I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if I'll watch the game, to be honest, with wanting to watch Cincy, UCLA, and Utah BYU, but I'm interested to see how he does, and he committed to Georgia Tech over Iowa State, so just an interesting player to maybe monitor down the season. But I don't know. I'm probably staying away from Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I have one piece in that it's Tyler Davis at tight end. I would assume a new quarterback will kind of go to their tight end. I guess
Yeah.
when I look at this offense, it's a completely new. Obviously, the triple option there is dead. The new head coach Jeff Collins wants to bring in a super fast spread profile system, and they get to test it out against the easiest defense in the world that let Alabama only score 16 points in the Clemson Tigers. They're going to have fun with that one. But yeah, so they want to be super fast. All of their offensive linemen they brought in from the option days, so they teach them an entire new blocking system. Yeah, it's going to go great. And so Tyler Davis is the only one I'm kind of interested in. I think it's going to be a blowout really quick, and I don't think Georgia Tech is going to put up many points.
Yeah. I absolutely love the first half bet. I mean, there's no way it's going to be close in the first half. I mean, with all the starters, and they're just going to be completely overwhelmed.
Right. I mean, and I think one of the things that I said this in Slack, I think people are going to be shocked when Georgia Tech comes out and they're in the shotgun for snap one. They're going to go, what is this? This is not Georgia Tech. Yeah, but I think, especially in the first half, I think they might settle down in the second half. And so in the first half, you're going to see probably, I think, all 3 and outs, and they're going to happen in 20 seconds. It's going to be, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Okay, we're 3rd and 10, and we got nothing. So, yeah, moving on. So that was enough about Georgia Tech and how bad I think they're going to play in a couple days. What do you like about Clemson's offense?
What's not to like, but from a DFS perspective, Trevor Lawrence I only like on FanDuel, where he's he's in line with the other top quarterbacks. He's not ridiculous. I think on DraftKings he's 9,000, which isn't bad, but given the circumstances, I won't go there for this game. The stud to watch is DeAndre Overton, who will be the starting slot receiver, with Amari Rogers still rehabbing his ACL injury. That's my biggest interest from a value perspective, and then Travis Etienne should have a big game. They have a talented running back behind him, Lynn J. Dixon, who what did he average? Like 8 yards.
9 yards a carry.
Yeah. So
him.
Yeah, I mean, he's expensive too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still think there's enough carries to go around, and Etienne's a fine play in all formats.
Yep, I completely agree. I think the stud. I think we have to say his name, Justin Ross, and kind of talk about his year last year. So
Yeah.
he came in as a freshman, I think, and he progressively got better through the season. So for the first 5 games, he had 8 catches. Then the rest of the season, he averaged 3 catches for 60 yards. And then in the playoff, he decided to put up 6 for 150 in each game. It was just a deep threat and as fast as anyone can be. So I could see him. I think he's priced up. I don't know what people are going to do. I haven't really figured the game theory angle if people are going to say, oh, he's too priced up, I can't go there, or if people are just going to fit him in because it's Clemson. But yeah, he had 22 yards a catch last year, and Georgia Tech's defense is not good. And I could see them getting the kickoff on the 20-yard line, and it's an 80-yard touchdown pass, and there's your 15 points that you need there for cash.
Yeah.
In terms of the value, it's Overton on DK. I mean, that's they priced him just horribly. I mean, he's priced well on FanDuel. He's in the mid 7Ks.
Yeah, 78.
This is just a gift that they gave people of whether or not they can do research. And we saw this last week. And don't be thinking this guy is going to be chalk. We saw Jared Smart, who is a 3K starting receiver on Hawaii's offense, at 12%. And Josh Hammond, who was projected to be kind of the slot guy for Florida, 3,800 at 8%. In the big contest. So these guys, no one's really doing the research. It's a lot of people just putting their lineups together based on what they think college football is. So don't think this guy's going to be super chalky. Play him, and don't be afraid of that play.
Yeah, agreed.
Moving on. So now we go to another game, and this game is fun. I enjoy this game just from the off the field storylines that I'll get into in a bit. So Texas State versus Texas A&M. Texas A&M opened as a 34.5 point favorite and a total of 57. The line actually has moved down in Texas State's favor and is continuing to move. They're now a 33.5 point favorite, and it's actually moving to 33. And the total is moving down as well and currently sits at 56. My Beat the Bookie model has A&M scoring 43 points and Texas State scoring only 10. So I'll kind of open up to you. Is there anyone at Texas State you have interest in?
No, I want to hear this backstory.
Oh, yes. So in 2018, so they have the new coach, right? Jake Spavital's in his first year. And so they fired the old coach, and I don't remember his name. But there are three storylines that were fun that I enjoyed. So one was coaches last year were forced to pay out of pocket for deli trays for their players because the nutrition budget was cut. The second was the recruiting budget was stonewalled out of nowhere in the middle of a recruiting trip. And then the third, this is the best one. After firing the former head coach, the AD went to the locker room to call on the team. The problem was he didn't know any one of their names.
Yeah, I don't know. They're kind of a mess. Texas State's never got it going since they've been in the FBS. They've never been to a bowl game. The guy I thought was going to be the starter, Jensen, he had worked with the new OC previously. When he's a grad transfer and he didn't get the starting job. It's Tyler Vitt who's going to start. He completed 60% of his passes for 1,100 yards, 7 TDs, and 10 interceptions. I don't know. I think Texas A&M's going to make this not a fun trip for the Texas State Bobcats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as we'll get into later in this pod, the Texas State opened last year at Rutgers, where Rutgers won 35-7. So they only scored 7 points on a Rutgers defense. They scored 7 points exactly 4 times last year. They had no shutouts. So, actually, no, I think they did. I think they got shut out by Arkansas. And so, yeah, I don't have any interest in this offense. I think the one thing that we'll get into is they actually had a decent defense last year. And so I think the offense, I might fade it completely, but I'll jump in the gun and I'll let you talk about A&M's offense.
Sure. I love the quarterback, Kellen Mond. He's probably next to Tua, he's my second favorite SEC quarterback. Mm-hmm. At least, Fromm's good too, but I don't think he's as much of a fantasy asset. then Corbin, the running back. They had Travion Williams last year. It was a third-team All-American. I really like him. They've had good running backs the past few years. Then Courtney Davis and Cameron Buckley are experienced receivers. Davis is a junior. Buckley is also a junior. So they have some experience. The schedule is brutal, but I think it's a good team, and Jimbo's gonna make some noise this year.
Yeah, I think that they have a good team. I agree. I think you're going to make Bobby really happy with these comments.
Gotta please the boss.
How to please? Yeah, he could make your life a living hell. But yeah, I agree. I think Jimbo loves to run the ball. That's kind of one of his staples. And so Corbin is, I think, possibly my top back. I don't plan on fading the entire offense. I plan on fading Mond personally. I don't think he's going to have enough run in the game to pay off his salary. But Corbin at 7,700 on DK. Jimbo likes to give one guy a lot of carries and then give the backup some carries. And so Corbin, even the blowouts last year, Travion had 20-plus carries in those games and scored massively. And so Corbin, I kind of expect to do the same thing, and he's my favorite running back on the entire slate. I expect Spiller. I think Isaiah Spiller's his name. His min price on both sites. He's a third-string running back. He's a freshman. He's a four-star kid. True stud in the making. I think he'll get some run. And then the wide receiver, if I play one, is Caleb Chapman. He's a big guy. He's really tall, really big. He's on the backup. He's one of the backup wide receivers. He was a deep threat last year, and at min price on both sites, he could get. He's a GPP dart that could see a few deep balls of the second or third unit.
Yeah. Thank you. That's pretty much everyone I'd look at.
Yeah. So moving on to, and we'll kind of, I'll kind of let you jump in here in your FanDuel analysis and talk about UCF, Florida A&M. I'll kind of give you a backstory. So UCF is a 47.5-point favorite over Florida A&M, who is an FCS team. The total of that game is around 60, so you're looking at the total is around 7. It's around 70, so it's UCF supposed to score 60, and Florida A&M supposed to score 13 or 14 points. So I'll let you kind of talk about this game for a little bit.
Yeah, so on FanDuel, this game's only FanDuel, so I'd probably just eat the chalk with Wimbush. I don't love him, I don't love him in general, but I mean, that total's hard to ignore. Another really interesting guy, there's two interesting guys I want to point out. Otis Anderson, he's kind of in that same Pollard mode, running back, receiver. He's listed as a running back on FanDuel, so he's a decent RB2 there. I mean, he's someone I could potentially, a little iffy, a little trustworthy. So kind of a little mixed emotions there. He's only 5,700, so he'll pay off if he gets a touchdown. And then they have this 6'5", let me pull him up, Harris. Jacob Harris, he's 5,500. He's a redshirt senior. He is trying to pattern his game after Mike Evans, so that's an interesting player. But yeah, they have a few pieces. I don't know if I'd go crazy, but yeah, it's definitely a few good pieces to look at.
Yeah, I think UCF is one of those unicorns in college football because they know that they need to run up the score. It's kind of last chance U. I mean, they just want to run up the score for the rankings.
Yeah.
So you're going to see the starters in there the entire game. Whether they score 60, 70, or 80 points, it's going to be the starters playing a fast-paced offense. I don't know why Fanduel put this game on the slate. It kind of just breaks
I don't
it.
know.
It's kind of like the Rockies in Coors and a super hot day with the wind blowing out. It's just like, why would you put this in here?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll kind of move on to the DK only game, Arizona State versus Kent State. So the betting information, so the line opened Arizona State minus 26 and a total of 60.5. It has since moved to Arizona State minus 25, so it's moved a little bit to Kent State. And the money has started coming in on the over a little bit. My model has Arizona State scoring 40 points and Kent State scoring 18. So I'll kind of throw it over to you. Talk about Arizona State's offense.
So Arizona State has my favorite player, the slate, Benjamin.
Mm-hmm.
He's a stud running back. I think this year's going to have to be his last year because he blew up last year. He was an amazing player to play in fantasy. Super talented guy. And they have a true freshman quarterback. The past few years, Manny Wilkins was the quarterback for Arizona State, and this year they elected to name Jalen Daniels the starting quarterback. He's a true freshman, so I think more will be put on Benjamin's shoulders. To me, he's the guy on the slate. And
Mm-hmm. Are you hitting the lock button?
Probably at least like 75%.
Okay.
I mean, but yeah, he's the guy you want to build around.
Yeah, that makes sense. Looking at Kent State's defense, it was horrible last year, mainly because their style. They changed their style to an extremely fast system, kind of like Georgia Tech is doing this year. Their offense went 3-and-out at mock speed, so their defense kind of got the brunt of that. They gave up a ton of big plays last year. Teams ran against them 61% of the time, which ranked 39th in the nation. To make matters worse, the entire defensive line is gone. They all graduated. So the bad defensive line they had last year is gone, and they have freshmen starting on the defensive line. So to say that Benjamin, who was a 300 carry rusher last year, is not going to see at least 25 carries in this game is beyond it's true, and it's going to happen.
Yeah.
He's going to be my. I know I said Corbin was my favorite, but is really my favorite running back on the slate. I think he's going to have another 300-yard season. He's going to go to the NFL. He's a stud. Herm likes to run. I don't really see how they're going to get out of that. I do like Jaden Daniels. I do think that he's a good quarterback. I think he's a dual threat quarterback, and he could put up some solid production. And the one wide receiver I kind of look at is Kyle Williams, who is a slot guy. He's the security blanket, and he's worked really well with Daniels in practice.
Yeah.
So moving over to Kent State, who I hate their offense, but I'm going to play a lot of it probably. Kind of walk me through what do you like about the offense?
Sure. So Woody Barrett's the quarterback there. He was at one time, I think he was an Auburn recruit, and
he's a 4-star kid.
Yeah, he's a good dual threat quarterback. I'm a little worried about how well the offense will travel to the desert at night. Last year, Michigan State found out the hard way. Teams from the Midwest really struggle when they go to Tempe to play a game there, especially a night game. Yeah, but Barrett, he had 2,300 yards passing, 500 yards on the ground, 7 more touchdowns. He's a good player. He's a junior this year. He redshirted at Auburn, as we mentioned. He is interesting at his price of 4,900 on DraftKings. That is, he'll definitely be in my pool for sure.
Mm-hmm. So for me, kind of looking at Arizona State's defense, they struggled against the run in 2018. So they were 105th rushing defense. They did well at not allowing big plays. They're ranked 41st, but they're ranked 123rd in opportunity rate. And so opportunity rate, for those in the pod that don't know, is defined as how many rushes were at least 5 yards. And 5 yards are considered the line's duty. So it's how usually it's the line gets you 5 yards and then you do the rest of it as a running back. And so if a D line is horrible there, it's usually the D line is bad. It's easy to get pushed back. They ranked 101st last year in standard downs, and so it's not a great defense. And so it's definitely something that I do want to attack. Woody Barrett, 4,900 on DraftKings is a great play.
Yeah,
and definitely a place I would only run him naked. When you look at this offense and why I say it's a really ugly offense is I come from the USC days of Lane Kiffin loving to throw screens to Marquise Lee and Robert Woods and these guys that are solid NFL talents, but he only saw any talent in throwing screens. So we threw screens, and it was fun to watch when we lost a lot. So screens are a massive part of Kent State's game. They probably throw about 50% of their passes as screens, and Barrett will share the wealth. So last year, he had 3 top receivers, and they're all back. So Kerrigan has some big play potential, but in their last 4 games, he had 14 catches for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. McCoy, in the last 4 games, had 14 catches for 120 yards and 1 touchdown. And Antoine Dixon had 20 catches for 200 yards and 1 touchdown. So spreads the wealth pretty evenly, and there's really no chance for kind of a GPP stud to come out of that.
Yeah, agreed.
And then lastly, I do want to mention Joel Shaw as a running back sleeper that I will have plenty of in my lineups. So when you look at his production last year, he split time with another running back. And so it kind of looks like they both kind of were dual-headed threats. They shared the ball, but Joel Shaw actually started the last 4 games of the entire season. And he had, in those times, he had 26 carries, 20 carries, 16 carries, and 31 carries in the last game. So at 4,800 on DraftKings against a bad run D, he could see 20 carries, and he should pay that off pretty easily.
Yeah, definitely. I like Shaw too.
Awesome. So now we get to the Holy War. As my family, my parents currently live in Park City, Utah, so we're actually very close to both of these schools. We know kind of how they hate each other, and it's a weird love-hate relationship. BYU is the weirdest, not weirdest. They are an eclectic home stadium to visit because of how nice they are. You can walk when you walk up to your seats. Everyone will shake your hand and say, "Thank you for coming. Glad to have you." And it was just the weirdest vibe. Everyone was just happy to see you. It was not a competitive football environment. I assume bringing Utah to town will be a little different, but still, it's weird. So in terms of betting, Utah opened as a 6-point favorite. They're creeping towards that 6 again. It additionally dipped to about 4, but has strongly pushed back to 6. The total has stuck at 47.5. My Beat the Bookie betting model has Utah scoring 25 points and BYU scoring 20. So why don't you break down Utah's offense for us?
Sure. They were just decimated by injuries at the end of last year. The starting quarterback, running back, and receiver all missed. Well, Covey, the leading receiver, he just missed the Big Ten or the Pac-10 Pac-10, the Pac-12 championship game and the bowl game. But Moss and Huntley were lost for a big chunk of the second half of the season. They're both back this year. I was kind of surprised Moss returned. He's really talented. He's had some trouble staying healthy, but he came back because he wanted to win the Pac-12 with Utah, and he's less than 600 yards from the all-time rushing record. I think from everything I've read, Utah is going to go back to a more physical running offense. They showed a lot of spread looks last year, but I think Moss is going to be a big part of the offense this year. Utah had a highly regarded true freshman running back, and I thought he was going to win the backup job, but he's actually third behind Henry Cole. And so I really like Moss. He's one of my favorite players on the slate. I know it's not a amazing total. On DraftKings, I do like Covey a lot. He's ready to play. He's a PPR guy. He's tough. He catches a lot of balls. He's one of my favorite players to watch in all of college football. So at 4,400, I really like him because you get a half point for every catch. So he could really pay off his salary.
Mm-hmm. You get a full point on DraftKings.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I think Fanduel's a half point.
Okay, yeah. He's a little priced up on FanDuel, but Moss, Covey, and Huntley are my top plays here.
Awesome. Yeah, so BYU last year, they really struggled on the line, and so that's why I completely agree with you. I think that Moss is a great play. Last year, when he was not injured, he was a 6-yard per carry guy and very efficient. He ran north-south only. He wasn't trying to get around the edges, which is Utah's bread and butter. They have big guys up front that block and push you, and Moss just gets those yards and they move the chains. I think this is probably one of my favorite offenses just in general, and I think that they are a sleeper to make the playoff if the Pac-12 can get their stuff together.
Yeah.
In terms of, so I think Huntley is definitely in play. I think he's really cheap, especially on DraftKings. And I would pair him. So DraftKings decided to make Jalen Dixon the top priced wide receiver. He's not starting. Classic DK.
He was really good in the bowl game in place of Covey, but now Covey's back, so it
right.
Yeah,
and so
it kills that.
DK is the classic game log watcher, and it doesn't look at any notes. The one wide receiver, my favorite wide receiver actually, is Damari Simpkins. He's starting on the outside. He and Huntley played together in high school in Florida, and they have immense chemistry. And they talked about how they love throwing and catching to one another. And he's only 3,600 on DraftKings. And I think that him and then Bryant Thompson, who is also starting at 3,400 DraftKings, you can find a pretty easy stack here that allows you to get your top running backs and some of your other top wide receivers. And I think that this is kind of my favorite place to go for a cheap stack.
Yeah.
So moving on to BYU, what do you think about their offense?
I really like Zach Wilson. I don't know if I like him against Utah's defense, but he's really he's going to have his hands full because BYU has an amazingly difficult schedule. Have you seen their schedules? Like,
oh yeah,
I might need to bet the under again. So Utah at Tennessee, USC, Washington, I mean, they could lose all 4 at Toledo. Toledo's usually strong. At USF across the country, host to Boise State, and then the end of the season's easy, but I don't know what they are doing as a program. But
well, they're gonna beat USC. Their offense is built to beat USC, so there's one win there. We'll get to that in, I guess, a couple weeks.
So for BYU, my favorite piece is Tyson Williams, a transfer from South Carolina who just won the starting job. I don't even know how Fanduel knew this, but they somehow knew to price him up because he's cheap on DraftKings but expensive on Fanduel. So he's, I don't know. It's like you can't win with Fanduel.
No, they're good. They are very good.
And that just came out today after the slate was up that he's the RB1 for BYU. So, but on DraftKings, he's still cheap. He's the only player I'm really confident in. I don't want to mess too much with Utah's offense. They have an amazing line, like 2 deep. The secondary is really good. And then the linebackers are replacing a couple guys, but I don't know. I don't want to poke that bear too much.
Yeah, I completely agree. Last year, they were defined. Utah's defense was defined by their ability to just blow up your run game. They were second in stuff rate, so runs that were stopped at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage. Just absolutely brutal there. In terms of BYU's offense, there was one fun stat. So at wide receiver last year, they had 11 players catch between 10 and 30 passes, and no one caught more than 30, which equates to, over the course of the season, no one caught more than 2 or 3 a game. So I'm not going to touch anyone in the wide receiving or tight end corps. If I do touch anyone, it would be Wilson, but I think that there are too many good quarterbacks on the slate that I don't think I need to go there.
Yeah, agreed.
Awesome. So that is Thursday night slate. So now we're going to kind of go into our game, and our game is kind of revamped from last week. So what's going to happen is we're going to take turns drafting. We're going to go in order: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and then a DK play under 4K. And we're going to do a snake draft. So, Aaron, would you like to pick quarterback first or running back first?
I'll do running back and take Benjamin first.
Oh, well, actually, so we'll go quarterback, running back, wide receiver. So I start quarterback, and then you go. So now I thought you were gonna go quarterback and just be very nice to me. I am going to take Ritter as my quarterback.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I think I don't know if I get the spread being so close, but I think he's really talented.
Okay, so who is your quarterback?
I'll take I'll go on the opposite side and take Thompson Robinson.
Okay. Yeah, I think he is in for possibly a big game with Kelly not being effective as he normally is, and I think that's a good play. He has good legs. I just couldn't pick him personally because USC UCLA
fair enough.
Not going to cross that line. So running back, you picked Eno. Yeah, I think he's the best play. I mean, there's I think you said 75%. I might go more risky and just lock it in. I think I think he's a great spot. I will go with. I'll go with Corbin there as my running back.
Okay.
And then wide receiver. Who is the best wide receiver on the slate? I am going to take. Yeah, I'm going to take Justin Ross from Clemson.
Ooh, that was going to be my pick. I think I'll take Mooney from Tulane. To me, he's like the only proven receiver that they have. So that would be my guy.
Awesome. And then your sleeper under 4K on DraftKings?
The sleeper under 4K would be let's go with Alec Pierce for Cincinnati.
Oh. All right. That comes out of nowhere. I definitely have written down his name. You all should write down his name. In my I put in a lot of hours of research. I didn't come up with the name Alec Pierce. So clearly he's going to be under the radar, and you guys should have him in your lineups come Thursday. I will stick to the solidarity of not picking Overton. He's clearly the best guy in the 4K. And I will go with who I think is going to actually have a really great game of Damari Simpkins from Utah. I think him and Huntley are gonna come with a couple scores.
All right, cool.
Awesome. So we're gonna take a 1-minute break because I need to go get my charger real quick.
Okay.
And I'll be right back.
All right.